Hello, I'm Nate the Effin' Great, and what did I just watch? Of course, ladies and gentlemen, this is indeed a proud production of Elite Ringside Network. Of course, give us a like on our Facebook fan page, facebook.com/ER Network, 24/7. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, this is indeed What Did I Just Watch, where I take reviews of movies, television shows, whatever I see fit. This one is going to be about 4 different movies, as well as something that actually happened this past week in wrestling, specifically Impact Wrestling. So that'll be more at the end of the show. So for this show, it was supposed to be headlined with the movie Logan, the highly acclaimed, positively reviewed movie that just came out last week. But unfortunately, I did not get a chance to see it due to complications, i.e. my car basically failed out on me. I had to get it repaired, and unfortunately I was not able to see it this week. So that review is going to be actually happening next week, along with one other movie that I know I really wanted to see. I forgot which one it was exactly, but I'll probably remember it next week. But I do actually have 4 movies that I definitely wanted to review, and one of which is very highly requested on what my thoughts are about, but I will get into that in just a bit. We're first going to start off with an instant classic. Horror movie fanatics still love this to this day, that being the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Talking about the original, not the newly revamped one, which apparently is bombing. So, basic plotline is very straight out. Kids go out, they try to find gas, supplies, stuff like that. They end up at a creepy old place, and they run into a Leatherface-looking, basically, butcher who apparently kills people and also eats them. There is a lot going on with this movie, and I took it more as a perspective from a classic horror movie fan, as well as somebody who would probably watch it back in the, I want to say this came out in, I think it was 1970, I'll have to look it up right now, but just judging how everything worked out with this movie, I definitely could see why some people nowadays could say, oh gosh, the visuals look horrible, the special effects look fake, it just looks like a complete, Okay, 1974. So I would have been very, very close. I would have said 1975. But this movie, of course, had a budget of $300,000, and it made $30.8 million in the box office. So that is definitely telling you a lot about this movie and how very well done it was. And honestly, you guys, it is still one of those instant classics that really look great. And the fact that it kind of capitalizes a little bit on the whole thing with Ed Gein. For those of you that don't know who Ed Gein is, he is a very known serial killer who not only killed his victims, but he also turned a lot of them into, like, say, home appliances. Like, he would take some bones and turn them into furniture, take skins and just turn them into clothing or into a mask. I think he actually took some components from his female victims and actually kept them as trinkets. It was just a very, very sick and twisted, sadistic person. And when you take that and you base that on your own into an entirely different movie, it definitely does open the eyes quite a bit to what people really are capable of and what they probably are, what some people even consider to be normal, which is really scary. But This was, again, one of those movies very well done. Plotline was straightforward. The villain was around. It wasn't like anything shrouded in mystery or something like that. It was just straightforward. This is happening now. Boom, 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 boom. And I think the character build-up worked out very well. Because in the end, it was one girl, Sally, along with the three killers being Leatherface, the killer, his brother, and then his abusive father. And it all kind of evened out in a way to where there was enough character development for all three of these main characters. And then at the end, when they come together, it just creates for something so much more intimidating, in all honesty. And even at the end, I was just petrified at the thought of everything that went down when they brought down their grandfather, which, oh my gosh, I'd be so surprised if somebody was even alive for that long. They're basically saying, Grandpa is going to be the one who kills her to bash her over the head and make blah, blah, blah. And having her barely survive just really makes you just, I think, appreciate, that so much more. To where a lot of movies, they have, like, nobody survive, which some people might say, well, that's what makes horror movies great. Not all the time. I think that having one survivor and having them kind of, relate what's going on to them and tell them their story really kind of makes things very interesting. And again, you have that ever classic scene at the end where Leatherface has the chainsaw. He's just swinging it all around. Again, just showing that he was still around opens a lot for possible sequels. But I think the only thing that they've done with it is they've made remakes, and they just never really kind of worked out. From what I've seen, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre ones that came out after the remakes were just horrible from everything that I've seen, including ones where they talked about the origins of where he came from. Didn't do as well either. So all in all, this was a great movie. Definitely giving it final score of 4 stars out of 5. It's a great classic movie. I'm only watching it once. It's one of those movies where it's like, yeah, I'm done after seeing this movie. I'm done. So going from that to another great movie, and the movie that I really wanted to talk about was the movie Lucy. Now, this was very positively reviewed as well as negatively reviewed. In fact, Rotten Tomatoes, they gave it a 67%, which is an above average type deal. But again, I'm going off of like back in the old days with my grade school grades where it was always like 69% or lower was always a failing grade. But in all honesty, excuse me, this movie was not horrible at all. It was actually very well done. The concept of this whole movie is that people only use 10% of their brains, and they're basically trying to create this idea of what would happen if somebody had 100% of their brain accessed. It's just really cool how they went about doing it. They had 2 different stories, basically, where you had Morgan Freeman. He was talking about his ideas of what it would be like for somebody to actually have full access to their brain, just playing a great professor in the entire movie. And also you had Scarlett Johansson, who was, of course, the victim of a drug that could apparently help her gain that access to 100% of her brain. And it's a very interesting story, and everything that she did, and I know Scarlett Johansson was the primary reason probably why this movie was so successful, was because of her charm, it's because of her acting, and I would be surprised if I disagreed with it, and I don't, because she really did a tremendous job. This movie, all in all, definitely I look at it and how the build-up went to it, I could see why some people could see some spots where it could be bad. Like, I thought that one of the cheesiest moments of the entire movie was when she first got the drug inside of her body. She started doing almost like this exorcism deal where she's just flopping and flailing and violently shaking on the walls and then on the ceiling, and then she's like grabbing a chain like she's getting like she's going through a wind tunnel. It was kind of very cheesy, like I said. But it was also one of those things where I guess I can understand where they were coming from. Now, again, Scarlett Johansson does an amazing job portraying this whole entire deal. And one of my favorite moments from the movie was a few moments after when she's starting to access her brain. She's sitting in a chair. One of the thug members comes in. And about 2 minutes earlier, she was basically getting frisked up by one of the other gang members. And she just says, "I'm not in the mood." Then 2 minutes later, after she's had this drug in her, what is the first thing she do? She spreads her legs apart, and she gives a look of like, "Come on, you know you want it." I thought, oh my gosh, are you serious? And then it just evolved into an action sequence. Very well done. I loved it. This kind of had an early Hardcore Henry type feel to it, where this person was on a mission to, I think, find a way to better herself. And I think that's basically how Hardcore Henry was to do it himself, as well as, saving his wife, who turned out to be a total liar and skank. But for those of you that have not seen Hardcore Henry, definitely go see it. I recommend, even with this spoiler, going to see it. It's really good. Unless you have motion sickness, probably not the best movie to see. Anyway, so Lucy definitely is a really good movie. And one of the things that she definitely mentioned when she was talking to Morgan Freeman was that she was losing her, how is it she put it? She lost her sense of, a lot of her emotions just started deteriorating. She felt no fear, she felt no desire, she felt no love. It was really weird, but the more that I thought about what she said, the more kind of sunk in, where it's like you're accessing so much knowledge in your head that I can understand that, feelings and emotions are probably going to be eliminated. And that's one of the main problems with computers, that they don't feel emotions. They don't feel anything. They're doing one purpose, and that's making life better, really. So that I actually really thought was very well done, was that now that all this knowledge is taken over, all of her emotions are just deteriorating. And, oh my gosh, everything else just evolved. And then they talked about how time was probably the greatest element of the entire universe. And the more I thought about it, it's like, okay, I can understand that. I think time is more powerful than knowledge itself. I really had to kind of think about that, because I think, what's been around for the longest amount of time? No pun intended, and that being, of course, time itself. It's just really amazing how well they did this. And for a lot of people that said, it's dumb, it's stupid. I remember a couple of people that have commented on this. One was Tyler. He mentioned, it's so bad, it's hilarious. Or another one, Paul, he says that it's not really bad, but it's not, entirely good either. I kind of agree with Paul. It's not like one of those movies where it's stand outish, but it is still a really very well done movie. At least the plot is simple. The characters have very good developments. There's a little bit of entertainment involved. It just is one of those things that really tests your imagination and makes it just go leaps and bounds beyond of what you can honestly expect. It's just a really well done movie. There were talks of possibly bringing in a sequel into the mix, but they wanted to know how much and how successful the first movie was going to be. And apparently, from what it's seen, it only had a $40 million... Let me get the facts here, because I believe it was $40 million budget. And they surpassed that. Yep, $40 million was the budget, and they made about $463.4 million in the box office. So that definitely tells you how very good and successful this movie was. So all in all, this is, again, another 4-star rated movie, and very, very much planning on getting it, because it is, again, just a really great movie. It really does kind of make you wonder, what could it be like for people to access, more than just 10% of their brains. Imagine the potential that people could have and everything else that they can do, whether it be having, telekinetic powers, or being able to change their appearance, or be able to, basically read people's minds. One of the cool things was she was in Japan, and she was able to look at a lot of these signs, and they basically they basically translated themselves. It was